Now, no, we're talking actually about the online business manager world. Now, this has to do
Yes.
with organizing the back end of the business, streamlining, systemizing, making business run much more simply with a team, without a team. And you've been in this world for nearly 20 years. What first
I
drew
know.
you to this kind of work? I'm very curious.
Oh my god. You know what? I was like most of us probably listening, just putting into my computer, how do I legitimately work from home? I grew up with a stay-at-home mom, and I think that's a real privilege that I know does not exist in today's day and age. And so when I moved from Canada to Israel, I was like, I don't speak Hebrew. I mean, I do now, but I didn't then. And you know, I live on a farm in the middle of nowhere. So I didn't have choices. And so I just literally I didn't start off as an OBM. I started off as a yes woman, basically doing anything I could to help other people build their businesses online. And, in retrospect, when I lived in Canada, I had a landscaping company. I am a green thumb woman. I love my plants. Um, but I just didn't really I didn't leverage any of my transferable skills, and I think that's why I'm so passionate about, like, shaking people and being like, "You have skills from corporate, like, you don't need to start at some, like, arbitrary whatever." So I started at some arbitrary whatever, and I spent 2009 to 2011 stuck in limbo between my corporate job and entrepreneurship, and it wasn't until I started to really, think strategically about my own business, and I think take it more seriously because I started having babies, things started to get real. I was like, I really need to make this work. I remember, I was like crying at a coffee shop to my husband, like the typical, rags to riches story, but I was legit bawling my eyes out in public, being like, I make no money in this corporate job, quote unquote, that I have. And it's like, there's not a lot of work for Anglos here. And I was really, I think I was just at the end of my rope. And so I kind of just it just sort of started happening for me when I started to work with the right kind of people who actually needed a manager in their business. And I was like, "Oh my god, so it hasn't been me, it's been them." I have just been working with the wrong clients because, there's a lot of and some of you guys might be listening, people in startup mode, people who are just, getting their businesses running, right? But as an online business manager, there's a certain, there needs to be something to manage, which means proven business model, revenue, to the tune of 10K or more a month in US in gross revenue for those of you who are considering hiring an OBM. Then you can start delegating. But what I was doing was I was working with startups because I was selling myself short and I was trying to like help them even though they didn't really have things yet to manage. They also were in bootstrap mode. So I think once I really got a handle on who the client was in 2012, then I could really like lean fully into the OBM and kind of like and then I got into certification and accreditation and I mean, I don't know. I mean, this is my life. I still feel like I just started. I really love what I do because I have flexibility to be with my kids.
I love that. Well, and we were
Yeah.
just talking even before the interview, you have the flexibility to go back to Canada when you need
Yeah.
to. You can bring your
Yeah.
work wherever you are, and that's just so beautiful.
It really is.
Yeah. So, for those new to the concept, can you just kind of talk a little bit about what an online business manager is? Maybe also compared to like a VA, because I know they're very different
Mhm.
roles, but some people think
Mhm.
they're very similar.
Yeah, and, naturally, sometimes VAs become OBMs, and sometimes VAs stay VAs, and sometimes people recognize their corporate leverageable skills and become an OBM right off the bat. So I like to look at an online business manager as someone who fractionally manages aspects of a business, whether it be online or offline. So we're not exclusively working with online businesses. Actually, my favorite client to work with are professionals like doctors and lawyers who are, leveraging the online automations and tools to make their business work more effectively. Like that's like my jam because it's so impressive, right? What we do. Where some of the online entrepreneurs are like, I've seen this stuff. This ain't anything new to me. So it's really about managing key aspects of a business. But I would also like the other way I like to look at it as keeper of vision and goals. And I think that's one of the distinguishing factors between VA to OBM is at the OBM level, you really have to know where you're driving the bus, so to speak. I need to know how much revenue is coming in. I need to know what the goals are. I need to know what the vision is so that I can make decisions, so that I can plan, so that I can like make things happen operationally. Whereas a VA is just kind of there to get it done, be delegated to, and you're usually very like might have a specific thing that they're very good at, like email automations or social media. Whereas an online business manager, it's I always say this all the time, but there are the hard skills of project management and team management and operations management and systems management and launch management and metrics management. Like, take a breath. But there's also, like, the soft skills of leadership and, emotional intelligence and having, like, empathy for your client that I find I leverage a lot more than the hard skills. So I think it's also much more of a leadership role, and that is very difficult because I often, with all the love and respect in my heart, sometimes these entrepreneurs, maybe some of you are in the summit listening to this right now, being like, I'm that client who's successful despite myself. A lot of our clients, they're visionary, they're impact driven, they're not concerned about the team morale or if the projects are in the project management tool. They just want to make things happen and do the things that they do. So I also find that um, you know, we really just have to leverage these soft skills in order to be successful, whereas a VA, you're in there, you're implementing, you're getting things done, you're checking tasks off, whereas as an OBM, you might be checking tasks off and getting things done, but you're always have the big picture in mind. You're always making sure that you're headed in the right direction and, that my metrics and key performance indicators and
Mm.
all that jazz,
You're involved in the whole thing.
and the
It's pretty
whole
cool.
thing.
You
Yeah.
it's almost like the overseer, hand in everything, but you're not creating the emails, you're not doing that part, you're, like, overseeing it, making sure the goals are coming
Yeah.
into fruition.
I also like to think of it as like in lieu of my client. So when people ask me, like, as an OBM, as an transformation we offer clients, I always say that it's really about giving them back more time. And clients at this level, when they are at that ceiling where there's no more hours in the day, right? Which is a hard thing to understand because when I was starting my business, I was like, I got all this time. Who are these people who don't have time in their day? I don't understand. Like, how could you not have? But as you get more acclimated to that kind of client, you're like, okay, I get it. Like you're firing on all cylinders, Miss Visionary. So you've capped out, you have no more time left. So when I think about the transformation we give our clients, it's really about giving them back time because we're taking those tasks off their plate that are the closest to the accountability and the responsibility where, like, you might be giving the client back time because you're scheduling the blog post and you're creating the social media or whatever as a VA, but your client is still managing you, managing the whole thing. So when you can manage the persons and parts of the whole thing, the client really can go with peace of mind to a conference with peace of mind to write their book because they know that you're still turning the wheels, you're still responsible and doing things for the best interest of the business.
Yeah, makes total sense, and just that time, that, mind energy you get back, especially as a visionary, to do the thing that you're really good at and to
Well,
see
now
that
I have
through.
an OBM. Now
Ooh,
I
I
have
love
an
it.
OBM. I actually have 2 OBMs on my team naturally. I mean, but I just like it's so funny because now I'm like, "Oh my god, I'm like that client,"
Mhm.
in
Yeah.
ways. I'm not, like, I'm still an OBM underneath it all, but I was like, "Oh, I can like now I get to see it from the other side," it's so interesting.
That's so cool. Well, and
Yeah,
I
it
know
is.
what you talk about a lot is like creating a seamless client journey that feels personal,
Mhm.
even when you're not present. And so we talk a little bit about the systems. What does that mean for an OBM? What are the first steps or what's that process look like to create that seamless journey?
Yeah, I think as an online business manager, you are 100% right, Gabe. Like, I think the automations and having your own system set up is one of the most important things that are not gonna make you stand out from the crowd, but that are also gonna speak to your, quote unquote portfolio or, sort of proof of concept. So I think the most important thing that any online business manager needs is to leverage automation. And it doesn't really need to be that complicated because, like I said, most of our clients are successful despite themselves. Like, kudos to them if they even have a calendar tool like Calendar or Acuity set up. But it is such an impressive thing when a client comes and can, you know, like fill out a questionnaire and then on the thank you page, sign up for the session that they're going to have with you. And then they get into that funnel where, hey, maybe you're dripping some testimonials to them. Hey, maybe you're following up with a personal email because you have certain things in place in your project management tool or that are pinging you when this person comes. So it's all about automations. And I think for us, probably a lot of the entrepreneurs listening and a lot of the people listening here today, we're probably familiar with automation. But for a service support professional, there's nothing more pleasing to a client than them and peace of mind for your client knowing that we have our stuff together. We know what we're doing. We're putting our best foot forward. So it doesn't need to be complicated. But the funny thing is, too, and I will say this because if we do have VAs and OBMs and service support professionals listening, like you wanna talk the least about yourself and the most about your client. So, you wanna make it personal to your client. So, if you have an ideal client, which a lot of us don't, I always lovingly joke slash not that I niche on personality, but I really mean that. So, talking about not about yourself, like, "I love to garden, and that's what I do on my weekend." No, it's like, "My landscaping company has helped me to understand the priorities that I need to set up when I'm working with with that kind of particular client," and so on and so forth. So, you wanna be speaking to the needs in that email sequence, in that automation. You wanna really be, almost pulling out your client's pain points and reiterating them back, and that's gonna make them feel like they are personally connected to you, and it's not about sleazy sales or sleazy marketing, it's just about understanding how the human psychology works, right? Truthfully.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is one of the reasons I wanted to bring this conversation here to the conference because we're not talking social media right now, but we are in a way
Yeah.
because if you don't have your systems in place, how can you actually focus on the marketing piece and focus on some of these other strategies we're talking about?
Oh, man. Yes. 100%. It's so, so, so important to have it. And I mean for everyone, but I think especially as an OBM, if you want to charge the premium pricing and get clients at a managerial level, you have to really walk the walk and talk the talk.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm curious too, what are some of your favorite tools or platforms or resources or things that you recommend for OBMs or even those who are doing OBM on their own
Yeah.
to get some of these systems in place?
Well, the good news is that we have a whole at obmschool.com/tools, we have a whole tech stack,
Love it.
everything that we use. But I'm a very, like, bare basics kinda gal. Any project management tool works, right? Obviously, we have our suggestions there, but, like, just get any they all have the same frill. So, project management tool, calendar scheduling, automated, so important because if I run a business where yes, I have had clients in Israel from time to time because there's quite an Anglo network here, but most of my clients are not in the same area code, and we all I mean, Gabe, even you and
Yeah,
I know,
time
like,
zone.
it's not easy, like, I still don't know how and sometimes when I'm traveling, I don't know what time zone I'm in, so making sure you have a calendar tool that accounts for time zone is critical. Time tracking, which is usually built into a project management tool, and also a means to start list building because, you might not wanna be a micro influencer, and my goodness, I never thought that I would be here speaking with you and having, like, being like an influencer in my own right, but you never know what will happen. And so it's also really important. Yes, social media, maybe not as important, but having somewhere where you can collect leads. Social media can go away, right? Like
Mhm.
it can disappear tomorrow. And then what do you have left? So I think having an email marketing system that can double as a CRM, a customer relationship management tool, is going to start to set you up for scalability as well as an OBM because I'm all about team. I definitely wasn't at the beginning, but yeah, you're gonna scale at some point in some way, so having some of those initial things set up and then that the beautiful thing about that is then it then teaches you how to be a VA, right, and teaches you how to do all that implementation stuff, but puts your best foot forward for the client. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of tech. I will also say here that I don't know when you started, Gabe, but back in 2009, like things were so convoluted and isolated. Now things really don't integrate still, but information technology is always going to be a bunch of little things that exist in vacuum. So understanding that most of our clients, his businesses are just sort of a convoluted mess, I think for a service support professional puts me a little bit at ease.
Mhm.
But there's just so much tech out there, and you're never going to know all the things. But most of these companies invest tons and tons of resources into being able to train us on using the tech. So don't be afraid. The tech is your friend. Automations are your friend.
Yeah. I love automations. I'll tell you, I have simplified I love how you said, I like it simple. I like keeping it as simple as possible. But that's so true because otherwise we could have to manage all our systems and not do the thing either. So finding that balance of here's what's going to work for me, like the project, what project management tool should I use? The one you're going to use, right?
Yeah, the
Like,
one you're already using.
yeah,
And then
don't
thinking
change
like,
things.
is this just a bright, shiny object thing where like when everyone moved to ClickUp, I'm like, I'll try it, but I'm not moving to ClickUp. I've been using Teamwork PM for 15 years. Okay. I was like, there are things in my project management tool that also they were like, wow, you're like the grandfathered grandfather account. They're
Love
like,
it.
I was like, 'cause I'm not going anywhere, you know? So funny.
I haven't even heard of that one.
Yeah,
So
they're like, "We can't even figure out," but you're like, you're on some, like, ancient plan, so it's like,
that's
whatever.
amazing. Now, I know as an OBM, and we just talked about this earlier, one of the main things that you're doing is helping your clients reclaim their time so they can do the
Yes.
things that they do really well. So,
You
how
said
do
it so
systems,
well, yes, you
thank
said it
you.
so well.
How do systems allow business owners to be able to also like step away from always being on without losing the momentum that they're creating? Because I think we're always afraid of, well, I can't take a day off. I can't take a week off. I can't do this because I need to keep that momentum going.
Yes, yeah, and I think that's when you're feeling like that, I think that's a great time to bring on a manager because
Mm,
you know, when I think about delegation and systems and automation, I also think about the people involved, right? Because when we think of automating things, we're like, okay, that's using like a computer or some kind of tech tool, but it's also about bringing on the right people to make the systems go. So, I would question that entrepreneur who's feeling like that. I would be like, is there enough in the project management tool? Because a project management tool should feel like a dashboard operationally of what's happening. And I know that it gives me a lot of peace of mind knowing that everything is there. If somebody, and again, Michael Gerber, E Myth, one of my favorite books. I'm going to totally not do a good job at this quote, but he's like, let the systems run the system the people run the systems and the system I don't know, it's something along the line of like, you have to have the right systems in place that are not dependent on people, right?
mm.
People run the systems, but if somebody leaves my business, the system is still there. So the nice thing about project management tools and being very clear about task templates and spending the time to plan and organize what the operations and the recurring things look like, the recurring tasks look like, then you can have the right people in the right seats, even if it's just you in that seat, but you have that recurring thing that's going to prompt you that then you can kind of take it out of your head and relax. So I think like the project management tool as a system for the delegation beast is one of the most important things that's going to give somebody peace of mind. And then I think it's like any muscle that you stretch and work out as you learn to delegate. You see the benefits of the return on investment. So, like I was saying, I have two OBMs on my team, and I'm like, Toby and Des, like anything that I think of, they're like, they will take it and they will just make it better. And I think that's the other thing that happens as you really trust the systems and you have the right things in place for your own peace of mind. You have that return on investment of investing into automations and team and delegation and all of that stuff. It starts to really what's the word I'm looking for? The Atomic Habits. All these books are coming to mind, but it starts to like
Like
to the
build on each
power of
other?
yeah,
Yeah.
to the power of.
Yeah, I know what you're
You
talking like
know?
timesing, 10 timesing or
Yeah,
to the power.
exactly, like, it just
Yeah,
starts to compound is the word
there
I'm
you
looking
go.
for. Thank you. To like compound interest, math is not my forte, and that's the thing, I was like, "Math is not my forte," but I have trust in the compounding of putting my effort into building the right foundation to grow from, so if you don't have the right foundations in place, if your systems are all wonky, and systems are living, breathing things, right? Like we document SOPs. I've got SOPs in a vault like till the cows come home. But they're living, breathing documents that need tender, loving care, right? And I think that people think that they can set it and forget it. But as you grow the beast needs more. You got to put more automation, more fuel into there. And, I think it's great. Like it's good problem to have, right? In today's day and age.
Totally. Yes, for sure. I'm curious when it comes to like getting things in order. You're talking about some of us maybe didn't have anything in order and have just been kind of flying by the seat of the pants. What are some things maybe to think about getting in order before hiring a VA
Mhm.
or an OBM?
This is such a great question. So, whenever I'm speaking with clients on discovery calls, which I do a lot of, whenever they're complaining to me about team flaking out or team not doing what they need to be doing, I always ask them about their standard operating procedures. Okay. Because I find that you might be a great entrepreneur, but you might not be such a great team leader,
Mhm.
generally speaking. And what happens is that your team doesn't know necessarily what they're supposed to do. Maybe they don't even have a task in the project management tool, let alone step by step instructions on your expectations of what that needs to look like. So I think if you are getting ready to scale, you need to have standard operations in place. And I'm happy to share a template if that is appropriate here. And also, you want to have a project management tool in place, like I've been talking about, that's linked to the standard operating procedure, so that the team knows what they're doing, and again, so that the systems run in and of themselves and not just because of the person who's responsible for managing it. So I find it's just you need to capture the system. So then people will say to me, "Well, I don't know what systems I have in place," or they'll get ahead of themselves and they'll create an SOP for like what they want the system to look like. And I'm like, "No, it's really about documenting." So let's say you're a coach and you have a client onboarding process, right? That's a system. Is it perfect? Probably not. But unless you document it and you isolate the parts that you can improve, you're just going to kind of like do it different every time, or like how we do our discovery calls, a little bit different every time. Document it and then you can start to streamline and automate and add those little juicy little things that make it more personal for your clients or make you have a thing that you can track if it's working or not, and that just adds lots of beautiful things. So I think standard operating procedures, and we've got a great template for that, and just making it work.
Yeah, I love that. And then it also is easier when you hire on a team member and you have those in place. They know what they're good. They know what they're doing, and you don't have to do as much training. That's a lot. Takes a lot of time too.
It takes so much time. Like I always say to people, when you're bringing on an OBM, it is quite a bit of work, right? Like it's not like you're like, "Oh, OBM's here, I got nothing to do." It actually it any team member you bring on is gonna require tender love and care. TLC.
For
There's no
sure.
way around it.
Yeah, I love it. Okay, so systems so important, SOPs, so standard
So
operating
important.
procedures so
Yeah,
important.
so
And
important.
as we get started, we can document. That's one thing that I've learned along the way. I was like, well, I'll just record myself doing this, so at least I
Yeah.
know
So,
how I'm doing
okay.
it.
So, this was the other tool that I was like, maybe this is a little bit going too into detail, but screencast tools
Mm,
are my favorite. I put everything into a screencast, and so I will sometimes say to clients that are like hodgepodge and need an OBM to put a system in place, I'm like, just literally let the screencast run. Even if it's like 2, 3 hours, I can watch it back on 2 times the speed and extract what I need out of there to put the system down on paper so that we can start to make it better, But
mhm.
so yeah. Oh, yeah. So I
Very
like
good.
that, Gabe. That is like a natural, you know, all that good stuff happening.
Yeah, more simplified, like at least have something until I could
Yeah.
document it a little better. Okay, a couple this is a kind of a twofold question. So I'll ask the first. For especially like those who are virtual assistants listening in right now who are like, "Ooh, maybe I want to do the OBM thing. Maybe I want to kind of scale a little bit in what I'm doing." What makes a good OBM? Like as a virtual assistant, what are some things to maybe look at to say, "Yeah, I want to go to that next level?"
Oh, this is such a juicy question. I think, one of the things I already mentioned today was that big picture. Like, if you are a big picture person, it's very hard to be in a VA role. I think if you are a person who is very keen on behind the scenes, but you have transferable skills and you're like, "But, I don't wanna just implement things because 'cause I'm not gonna say that OBMs don't implement, like, that's hocus pocus. Like, of course we implement things, and of course we set up tech, and we do different things like that, but, you have a inclining for, like, more leadership, you wanna be in a more of a leadership role. I think people know, I think when they hear OBM I think I did at least, I was like, "This is me," like, I could, like, feel it, and yes, there's lots of synonyms for OBM and whatever, but it's really all about the transformation again that we give our clients. So I think if you are at all curious, I mean, there's you can only fail if you don't try, right? If you don't start something, then you fail. So, I think anybody that's interested, I'm always like an open book. You might not find me responding directly to a message on social, but we do a lot of, like this,
Mhm.
conversations with our community. And so I'm always an open book, always very so if, like, anyone has any questions about what it means or if they think they're a good fit, can always reach out to me.
Yeah, love it. And then twofold for hiring.
Mm,
How do we know when to hire the VA or the OBM? Which
yeah.
comes first? Does one
The
have to
VA
come
always
first?
come the VA usually comes first. That being said, a lot of people will skip that step because they just like to work themselves to the bone. And it's hard for some entrepreneurs to delegate. It doesn't come naturally. So I think if you are at that income that I mentioned, like around 10,000 US or more every month in revenue, and it doesn't need to be consistent, but you're hitting that six-figure mark and you are your you have system. I mean, we all have systems in our businesses, whether they're documented or not. And I if you have a VA already on your team and you need someone to manage that person because it's taking too much of your time and you wanna so the other thing too is, like, sometimes, you know, a client will hire me as an OBM and they'll just sort of expect to, like, do nothing, and I'm like, "Wait a second, like, you hired me on to go and, like, focus on what you're best at doing." So if you feel like there's something that you could be better spending your time on and operations is not your forte, then you definitely need to consider bringing on an OBM. An OBM can help hire that VA. An OBM doesn't necessarily need to come on full on retainer. We do project stuff where I will go and create a 90-day plan and then hire that VA to come and do what they need to do. And sometimes, again, like I said, not every I mean, I love my clients, but sometimes I'm just like, "Wow, how have you gotten this far? My goodness."
Yeah, I love it. As we're kind of winding down, I have a couple just fun questions for you too, because you're in the service based industry where you're working directly with clients as well. So, what were some of the best ways that you found your clients?
Mm. I mean, I hate going to conferences because 'cause I'm, a very homebody kinda gal. But I do find my best clients at conferences. I think that, and I think you know this best because this is so your jam, but relationships are everything. And I find that my best clients come from either relationships that I fostered genuinely, and also because of word of mouth. I find my best clients through word of mouth referral because I'm working with clients that really need an OBM, and then they have their groups of other people that need OBMs, and you only need 4 or 5 retainer clients to make really great money, and be, not like, again, I'm not about working to the bone, right? Like, my kids are my number 1.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I think that the service based, sometimes the referral or the word of mouth gets forgotten about.
Oh my
Like
god,
it's
it's the
that direct marketing, that direct networking.
Also, like, I
Yeah.
tell my students all the time, tell your clients that you are expanding your business and you're looking for more clients. People and also testimonials, like,
Mhm.
people genuinely want, I believe, to help other people.
Oh, yeah.
Um, and I think that especially our clients, like, we're doing such great work for them. So yeah, like referral network and conferences are great. The thing about OBM clients that I always say is that they're not hanging out in free Facebook groups. They're not like, twiddling their thumbs. They're usually like disheveled, unkempt, tired individuals. So, if they're, I like to go to digital marketing conferences because I know that my clients are like great bootstrappers. They've usually gotten themselves this far, and so if they're investing in conferences themselves and learning more about digital marketing, they're like you. They're at that point where they're ready for more. So that's I love digital. I mean, I didn't always love digital marketing, and like I don't like social media, but I do like automation and I love tools and I do love the tech these days. So yeah, I think conferences and referral and um, also investing in things, I mean, there's been courses over the years that I've purchased and masterminds that I've been a part of that have been just teeming with good clients.
Mm, totally. I love
Yeah.
that. You can get the continued education and also
Yeah.
network at the same
Always,
time.
right? Like, I think that's the nature of what we do is, like, you're never gonna stop learning. That's also a key OBM thing, like, research-oriented, loves learning, is always kinda like, whether you think you like it or not, you're always learning new things.
Yeah. Love it. So for everyone listening, for those listening, what's the one thing that you would say, do this week to start getting yourself organized? Like if you could only pull out that one thing.
I would say, honestly, like, get clear on why you're doing what you need to be doing, because I find that, like, in my own business and with entrepreneurship is not for the faint of heart. So I live in Israel and I didn't speak the language for many years. It's not so easy for me to go to a 9 to 5, but for people living, in like North America or wherever you grew up or whatever, like you're very tempted to go back to the 9 to 5. So you have to really get clear on why you need to make entrepreneurship work. And when your why is strong enough, it can help you overcome even the most awful experiences as an entrepreneur because it's high one day and low the next day. And even throughout the day, it's highs and lows. So I would say, like, before you can really create a website or before you can really create automations or even set up your social media so it's like bare minimum, you need to have a strong why that's going to motivate you to get it done and complete it. And then one more tip is like imperfect action. I am not a perfectionist, never have been, but I know a lot of my students are, and I'm like a just get it done kind of gal. I'm like a minimum viable kind of person. So your website, like I love my website said nobody ever. But I think when your why is strong, it also helps you connect to the right clients, right? Because that's the other piece of this is you asked me about my ideal client, but it also is very much connected to my why of, having flexibility and being a mom and, all the things that I love in my life, like getting up and doing yoga first thing in the morning and not starting my day until 11, like, that's not for everybody. So getting clear on why it needs to work for you and making it, like, where there's no other because some people will say, "Well, I just wanna make a little bit more money," or, "I wanna have a side gig," like, it's not enough, it has to be do or die kinda thing, and for me, I was like, "If I don't make this work, I'm not gonna be able to live in Israel, I'm gonna have to go back to Canada, and then, you know, it's gonna be not what I want." So that was my why, and obviously, it was before I had kids, and then I started having kids, and I wanted to give them that stay-at-home mom experience, but I think for those listening, it's like, find something that really is like a non-negotiable for you of why this needs to work. Otherwise, it will always be tempting to go back to a 9 to 5. It's easier. No doubt, it's easier, but are you gonna have fun? Are you gonna, like,
Mhm.
blow the top on your earning capability and be able to, like, work when you want? No.
Mhm. Yeah. You have to know that why, and it
You
can't be
have to
that
know the
fluffy
why.
why. And it's
No.
because of that, like, business is hard, whether it's
Oh
online
my
or
god.
in person. It's so much easier just to be told what to do and just do it than to do your own thing.
To
There's
get a
so much at stake.
paycheck and have your
Right.
vacation days.
Right. And you're gonna wanna quit probably every day, even as you're scaling, even as your business is doing
Even
well.
when you're successful, you still
Yeah.
there will be times where you're like, "I'm successful," but it's hard. It's so hard.
Yeah. So having that and being able to go back to that every day. And then I love how you said, just do it imperfectly. I bet, Sarah, because you have that mentality, you get a lot done.
I get a lot done.
Yeah. And
It
if,
frustrates my team, but I get a lot done.
hey,
They're like,
because you
"This
can
is
always go
missing
back and
that's
change it.
missing, and this is missing and that's missing." I'm like, "That's why I have you guys."
No, you guys go make it perfect. Like, I'm just
Yeah, you
getting it
guys
done.
did it. Yeah, I'm just getting it done, getting the initial thing out there, and and you never know where things are going to take you. Life is crazy, right?
Yeah, I love it. So have that mentality, get it done, take imperfect
Yeah.
action.